That's right, kiddos. It's C10 time. So I figured since I've been in the spirit with pulling engines lately, let's pull the engine out of the C10. Now you guys might think I'm lying, but I'm serious. I think to do this thing right, and since I've been in the right state of mind after all this, the Cadillac kind of made me reflect on life. We're gonna go ahead and pull the engine and the trans out of this, and then we're gonna do all of our POR 15 on the whole frame and everything. We can paint the whole firewall and everything, and then we can also paint the engine and make it look right, because right now it's rusty, cruddy. And I also ordered cork valve cover gaskets because I got recommended that that's about the only way you're going to get those to seal. And I'm going to order a transmission pan gasket, but I don't know exactly what transmission this has yet. So we're going to get the powertrain out. We're going to power wash everything. I got black enamel for painting the engine. I don't want a red or an orange or a blue engine in there. This thing, it's going to be classy, okay? Black accents everywhere. So the engine with the chrome and the silver and stuff on there, I just want the block to be black. The transmission, I got aluminum color. So we're going to paint the whole transmission like a silver. And, I mean, you won't see it, but it comes down to reselling this thing. That's going to help a lot. So I just got the guts that we're just going to do this. So we'll have to drop. I'm not draining the oil out of the engine, just so you know. I did paint the oil pan, put a new pan gasket on and everything. It's good. My valve covers are leaking, so we have some oil on it there. That's why we're going to power wash it before we try to paint all that. And yeah, it's going to be a little bit of a job. I don't know if my picker will pick that whole thing up. I'm probably going to have to remove the whole front clip so I can get in far enough. But that'll also make it easier for me to do the POR 15 on everything in the front end too. I'm not 100%. Well, that, and then we can take the whole chassis out and power wash it, the firewall and everything, so that this thing is fairly clean whenever I go to paint everything. I'm not doing the firewall with regular enamel. I'm going to do that with a spray gun. I have lots of paints here, okay? I have a bunch of metallic blacks, and I think that's what we're going to do with the leftover paint. And then we got the new wheel wells. I went over this in another video, but these are off of an older C10. They have more of a dome, and that it gives you way more clearance to fit this thing when it's lowered. That these wheels and tires should fit and not rub with that inner fender end. You do have to modify them. Like, I think you have to drill a couple holes different from what they are on there, but for the most part it's almost a direct bolt up. But it's a school night. I just cleaned up the garage just so I can move this thing over. I'm also bidding on new projects, just so you know. So probably at some point in this video or the next video you might see something new here, because if I don't, I've been bidding and I've been losing. People are ridiculous. The Copart auctions have changed dramatically and the prices are astronomical. You add in the fees, it's like not worth it. So I have a backup plan. I found a vehicle that is cheap and it's a clean title, and if I don't win anything, then I'm gonna go get it, and it's just gonna sit here until I'm ready to work on it, or I get frustrated with this thing, one of the two. Which is very possible. I'm asking you guys because I'm not familiar. I put the LSD in this and I'm not familiar with it. I did put friction modifier in it and everything, but whenever I turn this, it's clunking in the rear, and I think the plates are gripping the clutches. I don't know. Let me know, or do I have a problem? It's when I'm turning, it's clunking in the back. I have not driven it since I put the LSD in. I did a burnout in the garage. That was it. So I don't know if it needs to get broke in. I'm going to look up and see if there's a break-in procedure or something like that. I would imagine it does need to get broke in. But yeah, it's clunking, and it worries me. Like, do I drive it or do I tear the rear end back apart? But you old heads that watch me and know more about this stuff than I do, drop it down in the comments and let me know if I need to be tearing into that or if I need to give it time to break in. Alright, so since my last clip, things have happened. There's a new project on the horizon. But don't worry, you'll see that on the next video. Speaking of which, Copart's getting a little out of hand. So you will also see that on the next clip. But the fees are ridiculous now. Like, they're way higher than I remember. And then on top of that, they're not even putting the description of the vehicles incorrectly. And that's something else you'll see on that. So I kind of got gypped. I'll just put it that way. You would think if you bought something that said it ran and drove that it would at least start with a jumper pack, right? That's all I have to say. I'm all for these Taiwanese tools if they make my job easier. So we're going to use this to pull the engine and trans out of this thing. Because this, you can crank it and move the weight. So we can tilt it up. Or, honestly, I thought about just taking the whole front clip off. We might do that too. But we can tilt the motor up and then level it out with this, hopefully, but we'll see. First thing on the agenda, remove the hood. It's not bolted down, it's just sitting there, so I just have to unlatch it and lift it off. So I got to clean all this stuff off. We did get our cork gasket. We did get our paints, which I think I did a clip in the next video. I didn't even think about it, but yeah. We'll do that when it's out of the vehicle. Really close to just setting this hunk of junk outside. I need to take it back to LKQ. But being that we had the issues we did with this thing, from now on, I will be going old school and going to the auction to look over vehicles before I purchase them. Just because you can't trust their listings anymore.
muscles. In about 5 minutes, I need to stick these down your throat.
You're gonna have to birdie feed me and put it down here this way.
We can birdie feed you on camera. You gotta get water.
Think to try big little tail. You could go to bigger tails. Don't shout! We're almost there. She's trying to kill me. Oh no! Hurry, quick, no! What is that? I blew it off! I blew it off! Like the face of dirt. Last one. You're fired.
Alright, so if any of you are curious what I'm getting into here, because you probably couldn't see it back here, unhooked the shifter linkage right there, and then zip tied everything together because there's a plastic bushing and a spring, and I don't want to lose those. So I zip tied it all there. I took this transmission mount out. I thought about taking this cross member out, but I want to paint everything, and I really don't want to take it out, to be honest with you. I mean, I can, but I want to drain the transmission. So I want to take the drive line off, but I did put a new carrier bearing in right here. We would lose fluid through the back when we were pulling it, so I just made the executive decision to go ahead and pull the transmission pan, and to do it without taking this support bar out. You can't get to these ones in the back unless you take that rear mount out. So I took the rubber mount out, sitting over there. It's actually in decent shape, surprisingly. And then I can get a ratchet wrench on a couple of these bolts and loosen these ones across the back. Then we can loosen all of them across the front, and then we can drop that pan. Look how oily this pan is. It's thick. Boy, it's thick. I also think at this point it might be smart, I don't know, to go ahead and pull the transmission off of the engine. I think that's going to be our best bet. It'll be a lot easier to pull the engine out, and I can put the engine on the engine stand then and clean it up, and then I won't have to mask everything whenever I'm painting the transmission and then painting the engine. My oil pan looks fantastic. If you didn't know, I already did that on a previous video. Put a new pan gasket in and redid the whole pan, and it looks really good. And then I redid the dust shield with a textured paint, which I don't know if it's going to hold or not, but whatever. It looks pretty good. But our valve covers are still leaking, and there's evidence here on the starter is there's fresh oil on the starter here. I think it's leaking on the other side too. Not the starter, obviously, but yeah, it's wet up in there, and I think it's leaking off of the oil filter or whatever. I know these headers are a little bit of a pain to put on, but you can do it with the engine in. So I think I'm going to take the headers off before we pull the engine, because it's going to give us a heck of a lot more room. Right now, they sit really tight. So if you see up in there how tight that is, and then over here, look how tight we are. It just gives us way more room if I take those out. So we'll probably remove the headers again, even though I've already done them. But we need to remove them to paint the engine anyway. So I'm just going to continue on. We're going to get the pan off. We're going to see what the inside of the transmission looks like. I mean, for what you can see. I don't know what... I'm not a transmission guy. So besides pulling the pan, changing fluid, maybe changing a filter, you get into the valve bodies and stuff. Nope, not this guy. I know you probably thought when that pan came down I got doused, and honestly I did not, thankfully. Crazy enough, it splashed out, but like on the floor around me, it did not get on me at all. I got some on me when I dropped the pan. I took it off completely, some on the exhaust, so that's going to smoke pretty nicely. One thing is, this fluid is clear red and everything looks clean inside. I'm going to go out on a limb. I'm going to say that this transmission was serviced not that long ago. And other than the pan leaking, I think we're in good shape with it. Pan's not going to leak after this. At least clean the pan. I don't know about painting it, but I at least want to clean it. Yeah, maybe we'll paint it. Why not? We're painting the whole transmission too. As you can see, rear main, everything was good here. I mean, we're good. I think I might go ahead and unbolt the torque converter, and that way whenever I go to separate this transmission, it'll come off cleanly. Cooler lines go in up here. They're going to be real fun to get at. Well, I can drop the transmission down. I have it tilted up right now. Actually, now that I think about it, I am going to have to take this cross member out regardless to take the transmission off. So I guess we'll go ahead. I'll go ahead and drop this cross member, and then I'll get back to you guys because I do want to pull this transmission out. Oh, that was another thing. I don't honestly know what transmission's in this thing, so let me look that up first because I need to order a pan gasket. I haven't done it yet because I didn't know what I needed to order. There's several different transmissions you can get in these things. I'm pretty sure this is a 4-speed. As for transmission numbers, whatever, I don't know. So let me get back to you guys. All right, so I went all out. I ordered a transmission filter, which I wasn't going to replace, but for all the more it was. Yeah, that, the pan gasket. This transmission is a 700 R4. And, yeah, I don't know much about it. I'm going to say it's similar to the 4L60. I ordered a new transmission mount, even though it wasn't bad, but it's old. So I ordered that, and then I ordered 2 engine mounts because I was like, you know what, I'm going through all this trouble. And with shipping and everything, that was $56. So it was just like, the stuff's cheap, so let's just do it. So I haven't dropped that cross member yet, but we're going to do it. Only thing I'm worried about is I don't know how I'm going to suspend the engine. I don't know how good those mounts are, and if I disconnect the transmission, is the engine going to try to fall? I don't know. And I can't suspend. I have that cradle thing to pick up on the motor, to hold up on the motor while you know, you take the transmission off so it doesn't drop, but I don't have the fenders on, so I can't set that on the fenders to do that. I could probably set it front to back, but then I can't take the front end off. I don't know what to do. Cross member, flex plate bolts, and then I'm going to leave the bell housing bolts in. Oh, drive shaft. Let's get the drive shaft off as well. Now, I got her all disconnected, but I did a boo-boo. I forgot to disconnect the kickdown switch. Yeah. So, I got to get back up in the engine bay, get the kickdown switch off, and then get down kickdown cable for the kickdown switch. I'm going to leave it on the transmission. I could have took it off when I had to... When you have the pan off, you can get in there and unhook it. I didn't do that, and I should have, which put us in this situation. So I'm going to get on the ladder, do a little work up there to get that cable off, and then we should be able to drop it down. I haven't taken the bell housing bolt up, but that's all that's left. Much simpler times. So all you have on this is your kick down switch, which is driven by a cable, and that tells it to kick down a gear. And then there is a plug into this transmission, and there's only 3 wires that go into it. It's a 4-wire plug, but there's one is a blank. That's your shift selector. However it goes. Yeah, like that. That's park. Yeah. So, AC Delco remanufactured. It's a reman trans. That's probably why it was so clean inside. I don't know if it's got the part number on here. I thought maybe it would have the transmission number on there. It doesn't. Over here's where your servo is. This is where you put the Corvette servos in it, and it makes it rip with shift kit. We ain't touching it. That thing works good. It worked good when I was driving. I mean, it does everything it's supposed to do. And I'm not going this in, like, it's going to be kind of a hot rod, but it's also going to be kind of a cruiser. So that's where we're leaving that alone. Although we are doing the Craigslist rebuild on that sucker. But I'm done for today. Come back tomorrow and we'll get this engine out. There's really not a lot involved in the engine either. There's a lot of extra wiring on this thing. This truck originally had a 305 in it, and it has a 350 crate motor in it now. But yeah, it's looking pretty good. The dipstick tube for the transmission, I might pull that up out of the top. Really, it looks like there's a lot of wiring involved in this, but a lot of this goes to nothing. So you see all of this up here. There should be one for the oil pressure sensor up there, and there's 2 things into that, so I don't know which one's which. There's a temperature sensor on the one side of the engine, and there's a wire for the choke, and then there's wires for the ignition, and that should be it. But it would have been a lot easier to get that transmission out had I had the headers off. So when I put this back in, I'm going to leave the headers off. We'll put them on after I get it back together, because the headers got in the way of the transmission. I ended up having to bring it down, then pull it backwards to clear the headers, and then bring it down. It might not be like that with stock exhaust, but with these headers, they get in the way. All right, I think what we're going to do to remove this, I do want to remove this eventually. We'll get the motor out without doing that. I'm going to remove the power steering pump, because I'm going to leave it here with everything. It's got, you know, rubber lines, so we'll disconnect that. I kind of want to take the alternator off too, but we got a ground wire going to the alternator, needs to come off. The harness lays through here that goes to the alternator and also goes down to the starter. We have to disconnect the starter down there. I want to take, you know what, let's take the headers off first, because they take up a lot of room and they get in the way. So we'll get the headers up out. That's pretty simple to do. They're all 10s, both sides. This side's a little tighter than the other side, but you can get it out of there. So plus being on here, I can raise and lower the engine to give us more room on that. That thing is a son of a gun to get off. I think I'm going to set the motor in with that one on. I just think that makes sense. We leave one off, but the other one's way easier to put in. yeah, you had to take a couple spark plugs out and everything, and then you're still fishing it up through. And then I knocked the caps off of my valve cover tighteners there, and yeah, it's fun. Anyways, we got to get our throttle linkage off. We got to get power steering. I'm just looking. There's not a lot of wiring involved, but it's enough that you don't want to rip it out, because I don't think any of these wires are correct to factory, and I don't think you could look up factory specs and figure out what's going on here, because this thing's been modified many times over. Through all of this, I forgot to go over some of the bad things that have happened. First off, my brand new exhaust gaskets are ruined. Whenever I took the manifolds off, they separated, peeled apart. So it's not expensive, but if I can get full metal ones, I might. As you can see, ripped the material off a couple places, kind of distorted it. It's sealed, but just not very good gaskets. Stamped metal ones or multi-layered metal ones are reusable. Those ones, not so much. The bad thing that happened is a couple of the oil pan, the transmission pan bolts were extremely tight. One of them snapped coming out. I got all of them out but one, and you can see it from the top. I did center punch it and started to drill it, but I haven't finished, so we'll have to try to get that fixed before we finish this up. Also, I plugged that. I ordered a new dipstick gasket because that one's swollen and out of shape. I ordered a new output shaft seal here, so we'll be replacing that. I also ordered a new input seal on the rear diff because it was leaking, so we'll replace that. I forget what else I got. I just ordered a couple things, and now I'm going to have to order exhaust gaskets too. That was it. I ordered 3 things. That seal, and that seal. Okay, so I ordered new exhaust gaskets. They're square hole, and they are multi-layered copper gaskets. So we're doing away with these fiber ones that obviously only make it through one torque down, and then they die. So we're going to those. Another thing I ordered, a separate order because I forgot, the vacuum filter for the brake booster here is cracked. I put electrical tape around it, which helped, but my brakes are lackluster because this is cracked and it leaks. So I got a new filter coming, so we're going to throw that on. Ordered that from AutoZone because that was actually cheaper than Rock Auto. But yeah, so as we go through this, I'm putting multiple new things on this, making sure that we get it right. I never set one of these new inner fenders in. I ought to set one in and see what they look like, see how much clearance we have. So it's actually looking pretty good. It looks like I can get a bolt in here. I don't know about on the inside. I might be able to get a bolt on the inside. And I think all 3 of these are actually going to line up as well. Maybe I ought to throw it in there and see what it looks like. Yeah, I was highly surprised. I did not think it was going to be that close. I was reading online that you had to drill holes, but if we do have to drill holes, it's going to be in the fender holes here. Yeah, I want to see what it looks like on there. Let me throw a couple bolts in it. I only have 2 bolts in it, but I believe that's enough clearance that we do not need to use anything else. I think that's going to work. I got 1 bolt in the front here and then 1 bolt in the back there. If I line this hole up and put the bolt in, it drops it down. So the one in the back actually lifts it up higher, brings it right up against the air box there. There's actually a little bit of clearance there, but look at that. I mean, it looks like it's made for it. There's a little bit of a gap between the frame rails there, but yeah, that fits wonderful. That's going to be awesome. And then with the fender on there, we'll just have to figure out where the bolt holes need to be, but yeah, that's a lot better than the stock fenders were. I like that a lot. So only one of these lines up. We will have to drill a hole here and a hole there, which should bring it. Yeah, there's a gap there, so that'll bring that up like that. but then we just need to see if the fender will fit. Then we can use some of these holes for our battery mount. I was using a hole down here, but probably mount it right to the fender, and then we can also mount our coolant tank to the fender or somewhere in this nature here. So that helps me out greatly with places to bolt stuff. I think I'm just going to leave that on there for now. I did just set the truck down so it's down the whole way. I think I'm honest, I don't think we're going to rub anywhere. It looks pretty good. Might actually gain some more clearance too once we put the fender on and this gets pulled up to bolt to it. Yeah, I don't know yet. Do we, you know what? Let's throw that fender on. Let's throw this fender on. I'll go ahead and do it off camera. I'm going to throw this fender on. I want to see how everything fits up with that inner fender on. I'm in awe at how well this fender actually fits. Like, it is very, very close. The bolt holes are like a 1/4 inch off, so I'll have to like oblong them. But like besides that, that's perfect. Like, that's great. So I did put a couple self tappers in right there because it cuts in sharper than the original fender than this one does, which I didn't bolt it at the bottom, but it looks like it's lined up pretty well. I didn't even look at the bottom to see how close we were. I don't know where the bolt's at in there. Oh, it goes in from the back side. It's right up against. It ain't going in any further. So yeah, it's pretty close. Like, there's really hardly any modifying besides drilling a couple holes there and then oblonging the holes across the inside. But that's awesome. That's great. That looks a lot better than having nothing in there. Then if you want to get extra and actually have complete coverage here, you could get like a rubber flap or like garden trim even, and just like cut a strip to run down here, put a couple self tappers in through it, and there you go. Then you have this whole strip. I don't think much is going to sling in here, but still it would give you like complete coverage across there. That's awesome. I just realized that we never got the bolt out over here. From that was rusted out right there, and there's still a bolt in it. I think it's going to break off if I try. Regardless, you don't even really need that one. You put the bolt in that hole down there and then just forget about that one, honestly. You put the bolts on the inside of the fender across here, and that's going to support everything. Alright, so I have disconnected and labeled every wire. Now I got like some randoms, like this goes to my coolant fan temp switch, and then there's the choke. This is a alternator wire. This is also an alternator wire. I need to get some black tape around these to hold the loom together. The starter wires are down there. So I got all that off. There's two oil pressure, I don't know, one's a switch and one's a temp sensor, I'm guessing. There is a mouse in here. There's a mouse in here. He's under my cart. Pretty sure I just seen him walk through here. Oh boy. I don't see him now. Where did he go? Where did he go? Mouse. Alright, time to set some traps in here. There he just went. I just watched him. He just ran. Oh, where did he go? He ran around the tarp. Great. Alright, so the only things we have to disconnect is the fuel feed tube, feed line, the return line, which are right on the mechanical fuel pump right there. Got to disconnect those, and we have to drain the coolant and disconnect the coolant hoses. And then we're off to the races then. It's just, we got to lift her out then. I got to get this thing up in the air. There's 2 bolts through the motor mounts, and then we can lift this thing out. So I'm going to go ahead and do that stuff, and then I'll video me lifting this thing out of its home. Alright, so if you go back, I don't remember what company sent me this aluminum radiator and electric fan combo. the aluminum radiator looks good. I mean, everything in it looks really good. I'm looking down at the coolant or the transmission cooler. It looks all good. Everything that's aluminum is fine. They use steel on the radiator cap, and as you can see, it is junk. The steel that they used, like, this just sat like rotted out. So I'm gonna do the right thing, and I'm gonna order another radiator cap, and because this was not gonna seal very well before it started leaking. Obviously, I'll try using this, but I'm gonna get another one because obviously this is gonna fail at some point. The cap's aluminum, but they just used steel parts on the inside that were junked. So we got it. Is that the way you're supposed to do it? No, definitely not. It's a learning experience for me. It's the first time pulling an engine out of one of these things. Didn't know what I was doing, and it looked like it. I just tell you that much. My recommendations, if you're pulling one of these motors, take the front clip off. Okay, I didn't do that. I was like, it'll come out without doing that. But I fitted up the inner fender and all that stuff. I should have took all that stuff back off, take the whole front clip off. Would have made it so much simpler. So when this goes back together, the front clip isn't going to be on this thing because we're going to take it off. But we got it down on the lift cart for now. We will be lifting it back up to put it on the engine stand, but I don't have bolts to fit the bell housing that are long enough. So we're going to have to go get some long bolts so that we can get this thing up on the stand. That motor is a beast though. I did mark up my freshly painted oil pan, getting it out of there, so I will be touching all that up again along with getting the block. But all these years of grime need to go away. There's so much, and we're gonna have to tape off the exhaust ports, and I'll leave the spark plugs and all that stuff in it. We'll have to tape this thing up pretty good. Look at this fresh oil right here, right across the valve cover. It's because I cannot get it to seal. So we got a cork gasket, and we are going to use silicone when we put that back together. But I think that's enough for today. So if you like this video, smash that like button, consider subscribing. Hit that dislike button if the swing in your mom's bedroom isn't tall enough to swing her over the headboard. And we'll see you on the next episode on Wrecked.
Stella.
How are you doing? Why, she's so happy now. Daddy pet her. Huh.
Mom just washed that dish mat.
What are you doing? Whatever you want, I guess. Look at this feather duster. Feather duster. Were you hiding? You're so sleepy.
Didn't even see him here. This guy likes the microwave.
It's sleepy time around here. They get fed and then they get sleepy.
Let me hold this hand. Look at this thing.
He's like, why are you bugging me? I'm sleepy. Stu Bean, what are you doing on the bed by yourself? Yeah? Do you want to say bye-bye to the people?